Happy Wednesday and welcome to another episode of Herspiration Happy Hour Season 6. And you know what? This is actually our Season 6 finale. Ladies, are you ready for some cocktails and conversation?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's get it cranked.
Are you ready for cocktails and conversations? Are you ready for cocktails and conversations? Are you ready for cocktails and conversations? With your host, the unapologetic diva, Dr. G, the girlfriend therapist, Dr. Cortina Lewis, the Blue Phoenix Heels, Louisa Harrell, and the networking extraordinaire, Diana Richardson Philippus. Are you ready for cocktails and conversation? This is Herspiration Happy Hour. Happy Hour.
Whew, it is Wednesday. It is the Season 6 finale. How are you ladies feeling today?
Wonderful.
Great.
All right. Awesome. And you know what? We've had so many episodes with just us, and in our season finale, we got a guest today. I'm so excited too. And we'll be bringing her up momentarily. But I wanted to know, what are you all looking forward to the most while you're on your hiatus break?
Catching up on notes.
Of course. What about you, Diana? What will you be doing on your much needed break?
Oh, I'll still be getting it done. I have a lot of things coming up, so I'll be working.
Well, I mean, I know we've all been super busy. Louisa, what about you?
The usual. We're gonna be script writing and doing some. I had a conference today, so probably still be doing conferences and stuff like that.
Okay. I plan to do some much needed wedding stuff. The RSVPs have closed, so that definitely makes it much more real now. So it's like now the real work has absolutely really started, and I'm like 86 days. So now I'm getting heart palpitations because I'm like having to figure some stuff out. But I'm actually looking forward to the much needed break because I think I said on the last one that we actually won't be back until the spring. Normally we come back in January, but getting married in February, I'm not going to have the mental bandwidth. And so it's about taking care of myself. I have 2 bridesmaids that's on here. So I think we're all going to, we all need to probably pause and catch a breath and then come back after honeymoon. So March, April timeframe, we will be back. Okay. What do you feel like you're going to miss though?
Seeing y'all.
I was going to say the conversation because it goes in so many different directions and we have topics. And I think all of us are passionate about what we do. And even though we don't sometimes always agree, we're able to hear the other side. And I think just real women being real and really talking about things from their perspective, not trying to appease anybody else. That's why I said sometimes we agree, sometimes we don't. But I'm going to really miss that part of being able to have these type of conversations openly with you all.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree. I felt like this was one of my ways to connect, especially with you, Cortina, because Lord knows you're probably super, super busy. Not saying that we aren't, but so I get to chat with Diana more often than anyone else on here. So this is going to be like, oh gosh, now I have to be more intentional about making time for you and checking in. I mean, I send messages in the morning anyhow, but it's different because this is like my outlet to connect with you all and catch up and just, unwind. That's what I'm going to have to figure out is like, when am I going to now be intentional about at least taking time for me one day a week? Because even though this doesn't feel like work to me, this is like where I get to kind of let my hair down and just have, conversations, whether I'm drinking water, tea, or a cocktail, which brings us to this. Cortina, do you have a drink for us tonight, right?
I do. So
experimenting.
Those of you who may not know, I am going to be starting my amateur bartending little drinks every week. And so every week, I know I did 2 this week. I'm going to be trying out a different drink. So tonight, I know you all probably can't see, but you have the lime on the inside and on the side, but around the rim, it's actually yellow sugar. And so I also have this thing called the tea. Well, this is a place called the Tea and Spice Exchange, and they have all these different flavor teas and all these different types of spices and all these different types of sugar. So they have like over 50 different types of sugar, like mango sugar and all types of different sugars. So this is actually lemon sugar. And so this is the lemon lime drop martini, and I named it AKA the LL Cool Drop. So basically what it is, because lemon lime LL, and it's cool and refreshing, and it's a lemon drop. So basically what it is all of the parts of the lemon drop. So I use triple sec. I also use a little bit of agave sweetener in it as well to get it sweet. I squeeze one large lemon, and I garnish it with the lemon and some vodka. Any type of vodka that you like. Some people prefer them with tequila. I prefer it with vodka. And cheers.
Okay, well, I am actually drinking out of one of my gifts that I got during my shower from Shay. She gave me some gin, my champagne for me to make my French 75s. I'm not drinking a French 75 right now because I want to make it through this whole podcast. You know, when you mix gin and champagne together, I'm just saying, you know, it's a one-hit quit drink. So I'm like, you know what? Let me just sip on the champagne. It was a beautiful gold bottle, reserve bottle of champagne. So that was kind of nice. And the glasses are just so pretty. So that's all for this is what I'm having today. But yeah, I can't wait to come down so I can see what you're going to be making, you know. Why not? When I come down there to get my nails done.
I was just going to say that when you get your nails done. Yes.
So, you know, it's 7:07, but I'm going to go ahead and bring up our guest because, you know, I want to make sure that we have time for her to answer, you know, to talk about all the stuff that she's doing because Christy Pretzinger, and I hope I pronounced her name right because I hate to jack it up. Christy Pretzinger is a dynamic visionary innovator who has transformed the landscape of healthcare content creation. You probably need to, you know, I hope this, I can't wait to hear about this because Lord knows the healthcare system needs some help. She and her team originated an entirely new category in digital content, and now many other firms are duplicating her model. As the owner and CEO of WriterGirl, I like that. That's cute. WriterGirl. Christy has built an industry-leading organization that delivers top-notch content and strategy to the healthcare industry nationwide. Along with her drive to strengthen healthcare communication, Christy is passionate about creating an environment where people can truly thrive. So, you know, we're going to bring Christy up because I got so many questions about all of this. How are you, Christy? Welcome to Herspiration Happy Hour.
Well, thank you for having me. I think already this is probably the most fun podcast I'm going to be on.
That's a great thing. That's definitely a great thing.
Yeah.
And so tell everybody, I know I gave a little bit of a spiel about yourself, but can you delve in a little more about what you're doing? And then I want to know how you came up with the name WriterGirl.
Well, I'll tell you that first, because actually I bought WriterGirl. It was just one woman as a freelancer. And she had one big client who actually ended up being indicted on felony charges for fraud, accounting fraud. So when that happened, she kind of didn't want to do it anymore. And so I bought her out and just kept the name. And she was just one person. This turned into, I just liked the name. Now we have about 32 people, 100 people total all over the country that work with us. So, but we're actually changing the name because we are so much bigger now that, you know, it's not one girl, obviously. And we don't just write, we do strategy and creation of all kinds of content. So it's animation, you know, video, podcasting. We can do, you know, all sorts of things like that. So it's all any place where you need words, we can help and strategize with that. But And I'm sorry, what was your question? Kind of just said, well, where's the name WriterGirl?
I was just saying to introduce yourself a little bit more and about what you do, and you can talk. I mean, you're already talking about changing WriterGirl.
Yes.
I want to know what also inspired, like what's next, since you've already grown this into a 32-person, I guess, corporation or company. What's next? I mean, you're doing. It says healthcare now. You're going into. Is it just very broad now? The direction.
Yeah. We started in healthcare, kind of, I always say, as the Oracle of Oprah says, luck is preparation meeting opportunity. So I feel like that was kind of what happened with WriterGirl. I ended up having a hospital system come to me and ask me to bring a team of writers to a very large project. I didn't even know what a service line was. For those of you who aren't in the medical field, I know you, doctor, of course, know, but a service line is like cancer or women's services, whatever. I didn't even know what that was when they hired me to do this. My goodness, did I make mistakes? But it was going so fast that fortunately we were able to fix them, and get it done. And we learned so much. And I think we did content for 3 entirely new hospitals. They were rebranding and launching at the same time. So I ended up, like, day one, my client said, oh, it's mostly done. I started looking at it and I'm like, oh, holy buckets, it's nowhere near done. And I had like 30 writers that I never met. I don't do that now on it. And I was like, it was crazy. But anyway, after we did that and it worked out, I thought, oh, I'll bring teams of writers to hospitals. That seems, I think as an entrepreneur, you tell yourself the necessary lie, which is, oh, that'll be easy. Right. So, yeah. So I went all over the place talking to people, nobody in my own hometown. As you know, you can't be a prophet in your own hometown. So I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio. So I went to Columbus, where the Ohio State University is, which are a very sad weekend loss. But they are a client of ours. And they weren't a client. I went up there to just talk to them. And this would have been in 2007, I believe it was. And I just went up there to talk to them, and I got along really well with the marketing director at the time. She's since been promoted, but we're still friends. And we just started working for them. And then next thing you know, we're working for all these other hospitals in Columbus, and then, Indiana, and then, Cleveland, and then Cincinnati came along. And then now we're all over the country. But when I was doing it, I always think it's interesting, and I'm sure you guys have experience around the same thing. When you're doing something, you're working really hard, you're building it, you're just doing it. You don't know, at least I didn't know until I looked back, that like, oh, we were creating a new category. I didn't know that. And I didn't realize it until I explained the way I used to sell when I was the one selling. Now we have salespeople, but when I was doing it, the way I would explain what we did was by saying what we are not. So it's like, we are not an agency where somebody comes in with my level of experience and then we put in somebody junior and you have to train them up. All of the writers have even more experience than I do. And, that kind of thing. So I had to explain it that way. And I was like, oh, maybe that's why that worked so well. It's like, there was a need, find a need and fill it. And so that's what we did.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's inspiring, because I'm a full-time writer. So I mean, I write a lot of content. None of us up here are medical doctors.
Okay.
Cortina owns her own mental health facility or practice. Noir Center is actually an entire center, and so she has staff and all of those other things. So yes, she's kind of in the healthcare field, I guess you could say.
Yes. Although they treat it like a stepchild, which is ridiculous because it should be the main one, right?
It should. And I'm going to tell you what I learned, which is odd when we talk about content and the way that hospitals and whatnot are doing things. Their SOPs, especially when people, let's say, because my dad had a stroke, I'll use that as an example, and they made sure he had physical therapy, he had speech therapy, he had every kind of therapy, but he did not have mental health therapy. And that was such a lacking thing. And for me, I was like, they really, really need to change that, because when you experience that level of trauma, which he had, he fell and everything, I immediately went and was like, you know what, if you all don't provide it, I'm going to make sure he had it. So he had weekly therapy as a part of that. And I made them work around his physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy, that he had an hour of mental health therapy to go along with it.
You. That's one of the things, Cleveland Clinic, you might know that Cleveland Clinic is known for being the heart hospital. It's like where you go for a heart. Mm-hmm. But one of the things they talked about, this was a long time ago, and they were sharing the fact exactly what you said, is that people who come in and like have a heart transplant, or they even have bypass or whatever they have done, that the hospital was looking at it as an outcome that was positive because they lived and it was a successful medical procedure. And then they had all these patients talking about, to your point, exactly the trauma and the depression and the sadness and all of these things that they experience as a result of this successful procedure. So that is really, really smart of you to do that.
Yeah, I found it necessary, but I have a background in that. I started my main career out in mental health before I shifted.
Okay.
But my heart has always still been there. But that was way back when it was so taboo. It was like pulling teeth just to get companies to understand the value of therapy. I'm gonna tell you another thing that I had to deal with when I was working for the federal government, and I had actually challenged my director because he told me I had to take, this was on the onset of COVID. And I was like, I don't like working from home. It was a transition for me. So I started going to therapy. And he told me I had to take leave, like annual leave for therapy. I said, absolutely not. My medical insurance pays for my therapy. Why would I take annual leave? And he said that on a call when we was on a Zoom call, and I made it very clear, and he didn't like it, but I told him, I said, I had to check him and just say, look, mental health therapy is covered under medical insurance. Why are you asking people to take annual leave for something that's medical? Mm-hmm. And he didn't necessarily agree, but I pushed back. I went and every week I put in my sick leave for mental health therapy.
Did he, you said he did this on a call? Were there other people on this call when he did this?
Yeah, we was on a staff meeting and we was just doing a check-in and
like a HIPPA violation. There's like a million things wrong with this conversation.
I had let him know that, I told him, I'm very open. I don't really, matter. So they was just doing like a mental health check-in. He's like, how's everybody doing? And I said, well, for me, this is an adjustment. So I'm taking sick leave to have therapy now. And I said, and I was just explaining to everybody, I was a GS-15. I was very high level. So I just, I encouraged everybody who was transitioning like this to, take an opportunity for it. And then he said, oh, no, you can't take sick leave for that. You have to take annual. That was the pushback. And I said, when we got off the line, I had to tell him, don't you ever tell people that they cannot take annual leave when things are covered by their medical insurance. They have EAP programs and all of that all those things in place, but mental health comes under medical.
Yep. Well, yeah. I mean, I obviously my company has 32 people, so it's clearly smaller than the federal government. And we've looked into offering, we do offer insurance and we pay for it for employees and a little bit for their families too, because I want them to be healthy at work and not worried about but we've looked into offering mental health and we simply can't afford it, which I think is ridiculous. It's just absolutely ridiculous. We try and find ways around it. Like we give every employee $400 a year for personal development. And so one of my employees was kind of disappointed that it wasn't covered and she was just starting therapy. And I'm like, oh, guess what? One of her bosses said, well, I'm not using my personal development money. Can I give it to her? And I was like, yeah, sure. And I said, guess who else isn't using theirs? Me. She can have mine too. So we'll just because I don't use it. So now we're like, okay, we got her $800. That should get her for a little bit, you know what I mean? And help cover it because I think she has to do it till she meets her deductible. And then I believe it's covered at like 50-50 or something like that. I'm not really sure, a copay or something. I'm not sure. But yeah, it's just really outrageous that these things, it's where it starts. I mean, I'm a huge proponent of therapy. I went to therapy. I'm sure you will laugh at this, Dr. Lewis. I went years ago when I was like, 28 years old or something like that. And I said, okay, I've got, I knew everything, right? I've got 3 things. I need to talk about my job, my boyfriend, and my mom. I probably need about 6 sessions. A year later, I was still there in the office crying, I go, we're going to have to talk about my mom, aren't we? And she was like, oh, yeah. Oh.
To piggyback off something that you were saying, there's 2 agencies that I've written proposals for. One was a law firm and one was an agency up in New York, a not-for-profit organization where they offered insurance, but they also wanted to offer like, how you can go through EAPs, but they wanted one particular person or an agency that was local that they could go to or send their employees to, because it was like emotional wellness for the employees.
Sure.
Because if our employees are in good mental health, guess what? The way that they produce and the level at which they will work will increase. And so basically, there were a few different proposals, but the one that they selected was where it was a pot of sessions and anybody could access them. So they purchased like over 100 sessions. And so anybody who needed it, when they needed it, they would be able to access that pot of sessions. Whereas someone may have only used it once or never. It wasn't delegated where everybody gets 5. It's just, this is what we have.
Whoever needed it, and this is what we have.
Yep.
Oh, that's a
And it
great
was free.
idea.
They didn't have to pay anything, and the firm actually paid for them to get their sessions.
That's a really good idea. I appreciate
Mm-hmm.
that. I will definitely look into that, because that could be an option. Because as you just said, I mean, the thing that you mentioned in your introduction is that what I found over time, I work, like now I'm lucky I get to work on the business, not in the business. And so I have figured out, again, looking in hindsight, that my real passion is building an environment where people can thrive. And that I'm writing a book called Your Cultural Balance Sheet, because if you look at your business through the lens of a culture, and I mean, I don't think I've ever heard anybody else do that. I put it first. I mean, the other business owners I know are usually talking about bottom line and, net income and, multiples, wanting to sell that stuff. And I'm always like, I just don't. My first question when we do things is always, how is it affecting people? Is it affecting their happiness? Is it affecting their joy? Is it negatively impacting the way they're viewing their work, whatever it happens to be? Because I know in my own experience, to your point, happy, healthy employees are productive. And when they know that you want to do things to support them, just they know I'll run through a wall for them, and they'll run through a wall for the company. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I have a question as it pertains to content, because you've actually grown beyond the healthcare into other fields, and I know I've had lots of conversations with other people who are writers, particularly like myself, and I look at different things. How has AI affected anything that you're doing in the writing creative space now?
Well, I'll tell you right now, we haven't expanded yet beyond healthcare. That's one of the reasons for changing the name. It's going to be, instead of just WriterGirl, it's going to be WG Content. Strategy and creation. So that way it's larger, because most of our clients are always shocked when they hear how big we are. They're like, oh, I didn't know you did all that. So, and we are doing that so that we can expand into other verticals, and we don't know what those will be yet. But to answer your question about AI, first of all, I mean, oh my Lord, it's like every 5 minutes, something else comes out about it, right? I mean, you could have your hair on fire about this if you wanted to, but I've decided not to. I think that one of the things that we talk about at what we do is that we excel at being human, because we are required we interview physicians, and then we do the alchemy of turning their very high level medical conversation into anything from 5th to 8th grade reading level, depending on whether it's an academic medical center or hospital system or whatever. So we really don't feel like that can be replaced, because it's so highly custom. However, we are looking at ways of using it as like starter documents or starter questions, maybe, to ask in an interview. How can we use AI as a tool? I think I've heard them say that many hospitals have said you can't use it at all, just because it's scary, and people, I mean, I always think, my goodness, people are coming here to get information, and they are expecting you to be a trusted, reliable authority. And if all of a sudden it's like some AI saying something, I mean, what if you're wrong? It's like that. These are life and death decisions frequently. Nobody's going to a hospital website for fun. I mean, you're not going there because you're in a good place usually. So you really need to have, a certain tone, certain authority, whatever that is for each individual place. So we have not run into that yet, although I will tell you, our clients are all kind of freaked out about it. The employees that we work with, like probably marketing directors and marketing managers at that level, and maybe even lower that we don't work with, but we usually work with the directors and managers. They're worried about their jobs being replaced, and I can understand that fear. I don't know what that looks like. But I understand it's a very chaotic and uncertain time.
Yeah. So I recently did a speaking engagement about how to utilize AI in the best way beyond writing. I think that most people consider AI as, oh, it's going to write for me.
Right.
And it's it's actually much more usable than that. The way that you can utilize AI to provide analytical data for you,
Yes.
for your business. That's what I really tell people. Okay, writing is one thing, because if you've always been a writer. I've been a writer for, I don't know for how long, forever. My company's 6 years old. I was writing before even then, before I became a company, because after a while you stop writing for free,
Yes, you do.
But because I am a writer, my concern was that, and if you're not careful, AI can shift your voice.
Yeah.
And I tell people, writing is called a craft for a reason. You think about all these people that write movies and scripts and all of this, it's their craft. It's their, writing is your own voice, and some people write exactly how they speak. But then there, so if you start writing differently, you can tell.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
so, and I tell people, even as I'm taking a break from teaching, because I teach grad school MBA programs. And I always tell them when I get in there, so that I can ensure that they're not going to have someone else write for them, because you'd be amazed at what's out there and people try to write. I have them hand write for me one page
Very good.
in class. No computer, no nothing, because then I can understand the tone of how they write and everything. Even if they need the paper, and then all of a sudden, if you give me a paper that's just flawless,
Yeah.
lets me know, okay, we're going to have a conversation. So that's one way that you can also get around AI. And I tell professors that all the time, that, your voice, your writing has its own tone, your writing has its own voice, just like your penmanship.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm very, that's what made me, when I did BloggyCon, I was out in, matter of fact, I was out in Ohio, Sandusky.
Oh, yeah, you were up north.
Yes. So I was at Sandusky doing a speaking engagement, but that's what I did it on, is just being able to utilize AI to, to be able to maximize the benefit of it.
Right. That's really good. I mean, that there is an awful lot of applications that I've read a little bit about. In some ways, I'm not all that interested, because my whole, our mission at WriterGirl and WG Content, it is building relationships one word at a time. Mm-hmm. And so even when I was a freelance writer, I used to talk about, when I'm writing, I'm still building a relationship with one reader. It's a relationship. And to your point, it has to be me creating that relationship. Or if I was doing it on behalf of a client, one of the things that I was able to do, I had, every writer has different skills, right? One of the things I could do, I was very good at mimicking the tone of the person I was interviewing. So I could, write things in their tone, because to your point, it shouldn't sound like me. If I'm writing for this person, it needs to sound like them, and so that was a skill that I had. But yeah, I agree with you. I think that's brilliant that you do that in the class. Did you guys know, that when ChatGPT came out like last Christmas, and all of a sudden the whole world went crazy, that a kid from Princeton, he was a senior, and I think he was like a tech guy in some way. He went home, and over Christmas break, he used the platform, which I can't remember the name, what it is, but the ChatGPT platform, to program a program that could test whether the document had been created by ChatGPT. I mean, smart people, I love them. I just thought that was so smart. He was a senior on his winter break, and I just thought that was great. I haven't heard much more about it. I think that all these VC companies wanted to back him and buy it and all this kind of stuff. And he was like, he just did it because he was like, wait a minute, people should have to know how to write. You can't just like wipe that away, right?
Yeah. But I think also the best way to use it, in which I was sharing, because there's a lot of bloggers now that have gone to utilizing AI.
Oh.
I always tell them, like, if you just put in a sentence, you never know what you're going to get. Sometimes I think you get like 2,000, 3,000 words or 8,000 words you can put in. Fill them in, because then it recognizes your voice. And I only know this because I was a beta tester for AI for a company.
Oh, okay. That's good. That's good. You need to do a TED Talk, and then we can listen to it.
Say what?
You need to do a TED Talk about using AI properly.
Yeah. So, but that's when I was speaking about there, they was like blown away at, and I gave them different platforms that, all of these different I've never tried different ones. I only beta tested for one.
Right.
And the thing that being able to write and having to, you have to give back feedback and all of those other things. Here's the thing that I did learn about AI. AI will recognize if you put enough parameters in and you have to be very specific. It would literally begin to mimic you over time. I did it for a year.
That's what's scary.
It was so scary that I was like, and the scariest thing that ever happened to me was I was, putting in different prompts to test it, and it actually spit out that they weren't, there was nothing, there was no data on it, but I feel that blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it's kind of. Do you remember? Did you see the whole thing about the Bing test with the guy that was testing it, and it was trying to tell him to kill himself, and that he actually loved this AI thing instead of his wife? And I mean, it was bizarre.
I didn't see that.
Crazy. It was in the Wall Street Journal. I think it was a while back, and I'm like, okay, we're not quite ready for this yet. And it was a reporter beta testing it, and I think it does. Sometimes I think as humans, we're just really intent on destroying ourselves.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? We are just intent. All the things that we do and the way that we act like we hate each other, and we are so hateful with things. And then we create this AI and then war, and it's like, what is wrong with you people? Can't you just get along and have some joy? Good Lord.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why I was speaking on it, because when I got that error and I had to report that, I'm like, I had never, of all the times that I have been using it, I have never received that level. Normally it would just spit out nonsense, and there were certain things that I had to put in order to see what it spit out, so that they can update and make changes and have it evolve as the user used it. So, but made me I almost want to go and try other ones. Yeah. Just to see what the feel is. But it's, to me, I don't know about most people, but I don't really like tech that much. And it's, to me, some of them are more complicated. I did, when I was researching for my talk, there's an AI program. I can't remember the name of it right off, but it is in my slides, that will write a 24,000 word book for you. Like, what in the world? So are we not going to have genuine writers now? So as somebody who creates content and writes, it's like you're telling everybody that they can write now, because you have a tool now that literally will write books for you. And I mean, and it's a struggle. I've been writing one book for like the last 2 years.
I know. Yeah, that's not easy. Yeah, I don't know. I think just some of it kind of makes me depressed. It's like there was a guy many years ago. This was probably 6-7 years ago. And there's this guy who basically, he invented something like virtual reality or something. He's one of those Silicon Valley crazy smart guys. And he's this big Buddha looking guy with like waist long dreads, but he's like a white guy with waist long dreads. You know what I mean? And he's like, he lives in a yurt in like Berkeley or something. And he did these 3 8-minute segments for the New York Times. They were video. And he was talking about, way before AI. I mean, there have been AI tools around for a long time. We use a bunch of them, like Grammarly and all these different, they've been around, but in this capacity. And he was talking about, the world wants you to think that your data has no value. Mm-hmm. And he's like, but what it's doing, because, AI is us, right? It's like, I mean, it is us. And that's why as it gets to know you, which is very scary, it gets more like you. And he did these, and I'm not going to be able to articulate it because he's really brilliant. Basically what he said, and this was 6 or 7 years ago, he said, every individual person, if you could own your data, every person could make between $30,000 and $40,000 a year on that data. Talk about a living wage. I mean, maybe not for San Francisco, but still $30,000 to $40,000, every one of us. And we've been taught to believe that it's nothing. And so we just give it away. I mean, anymore, I'm like, did I sign away my only child? I mean, I probably did. I don't know, to Apple 1,000 times. I don't know.
Yeah. One of the things that I do, because as a writer, in my company, when you go on my website, my prices are on my website.
Oh, really?
And I explain to them why my prices are set. And one of them is my intellectual property you have to pay me for.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some people don't understand that, but I'm like, it's not benefiting me. It's not, you have to acquire it from me for use, because I'm ghostwriting for a lot of people.
Right.
I'm working for a lot of different companies and small businesses. And I'm like, I'm giving away a lot of free writing. And this is, and I don't even, I don't rely on AI outside of what I have to do for the beta testing, which I'm finished with that now. Was 18 months, was just the evolution of it was really scary. I don't think personally for me, it's something that I would want to use, because I've seen what it does and what I've had to report back.
Ew.
That's why there are the only benefit, like I said, the only benefit I see it for is analytical stuff, because they're already using your data. It's using what you provide to them
Right.
to analyze it and spit stuff out.
Right.
That, in it, like, and I'll say the company SEMrush, that's one of the things that they do analytical wise. Yeah,
right.
analytical wise, I've utilized that for my company. But one funny thing is, I never knew it was tied to AI. SEMrush is like,
Yeah.
SEMrush is to me, pre AI of what I know.
Same. I would have thought the same thing. I didn't even realize that, because we use SEMrush too.
Yeah.
I honestly don't even know what it does, because again, I'm not that in the weeds anymore. But I know I see the bills, so I know that we use it. But I would never have thought of it as AI.
That's
interesting.
It's an AI platform.
Interesting.
And I don't know if it evolved to that, because I've probably been using SEMrush for about 3.5 years now.
Okay.
And it wasn't until I was researching AI that SEMrush came up, and I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
AI. So that was something that I learned. But then but they gave me something that I could speak to, because it was a platform that I was using analytical wise. So if I told people, if from an AI perspective, that's what you should be going after, not something that's the right content for you.
I think that I feel like people, certainly in this country, want simple solutions to complex problems. And so AI, they look at AI and go, oh, it can write for you. You know what I mean? Oh, that's what it does. It writes for you, instead of actually seeing it as a tool for, all the different or the way that you actually already are using it and you don't even know it. Like I said, we use Grammarly, and we use a plagiarism tool and some other things, all of which are AI, but then when this Chat GPT came out, all of a sudden AI was just about writing, and obviously it's about much more than that.
Two things. I don't know if you guys heard about the attorney that was arguing his case, and he used Chat GPT, and it was like not real cases. So you're bringing up cases that are not even real, but it's because he asked Chat GPT, and that was his, argument. And then the other thing is, I have master's level professor, tenured professor friends, and one of the biggest things in academia is, because when you run it through turnitin.com, it doesn't come up as plagiarism, because it's AI coming up with the information. So that's one of the biggest things when they're trying to run it through the programs to see if it has been plagiarized. It hasn't technically been plagiarized, because it's AI coming up with the verbiage of what you put into it. And so that has just been one of the biggest things. And so one of my friend, she said she notices that when she gives discussion boards, everybody kind of has the same little bullets. The wording is different, but maybe like the subtitles are kind of the same in the same flow. So for academic integrity, she just has been throwing the whole thing out, because unless you can clearly see that this is of your own, but she said she'll get like 12 students with the same kind of format, which she can't prove, right? She can't prove it's plagiarized, but there's a lot of evidence to support that it has been. And so it's huge, because if you're depending on those things, what's happening to the critical skills analysis that's needed to put thoughts together, especially when we're talking about content writing and writing for anything, really.
Not just living in the world and understanding the difference between inductive and deductive reasoning. You can't do either anymore. You don't even know that there are two. I'm telling you, you could probably walk up to 5 people on the street and say, tell me the difference between inductive and deductive reasoning. And they would be like, what? They would be like, I don't even know what those words mean. I mean, we are dumbing people down so badly.
Well, the phones did that too, because, you go to, I remember my fiance Jay was telling me he was out grocery shopping or something, and he gave the woman, I guess, a bigger bill, and it had a little bit of change, and then he found the change, but she had already registered it, and he said, oh, I do have 25 cents. And she was like, oh, I can't take that, because I won't know how much change to give you back.
Thank you. I know.
He was like, this generation is just getting stupid.
My son's 22 now, and I'm a proud mother. He's at Georgetown Law School, so I'm incredibly proud of him. I could never do that. But when he was little, I used to make him, go shopping with me, and I would teach him percentages. I was like, "What's 10% of this? If it's 10%, okay, so it's 30%." And I remember one time he was probably about 7 or 8. We were at a money machine getting out some cash, and I said, "Okay, here's a fee. The fee is going to be $3. Should I take out $20 or should I take out $200?" And he was like, "You should take out $200. I'm like, "Oh, isn't it fun to be smart?" Like, like, because I want him to be able to do stuff in his head and be able to think and process things and reason. And I just feel like with all this stuff doing everything for us. I mean, he used to ask me questions and I'd be like, "Look it up. I actually have to know stuff." That, I didn't have Dr. Google when when I was a kid. I had to go to a book, an encyclopedia. It's a book. One time we were walking by the library in downtown Cincinnati.
Card catalog.
Yes, thank you.
OMG.
Remember, there used to be a what do you call it? A major called library science that was about cataloging stuff. We went to a big library. My son went. He was like 16. He went, "Gosh, what's in there?" I'm like, "Oh my God, stop it! There are books in there."
You remember the microfiche?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember having to scroll through to like find articles when I was in my master's program. I'm like,
"Yep,
I got to go to a library and look all of this stuff up." I'm over here rolling.
Yes. I remember the last time I went to a library for research. I was a freelance writer. I literally had my purse on my shoulder, my hand on my front door to go to the big downtown library. And I went, "Wait a minute, I've got the internet." And I swear to God, it was probably like 1995 or something. I mean, like, wait a minute. Isn't that funny? I mean,
it's really sad because I was reading an article where the average ACT score used to be like 25 and now it's 17.
No, you're kidding me.
No, I'm not. And I was like, and this is the future who's going to be running the country. And
oh, please. We've already got that generation running.
It's just so disheartening. And even some of the teacher friends that I have and how they're talking about the student, like that bulk of COVID students, not the ones who weren't in school yet, but like those kindergartners through those, let's say, middle school age, and how they're moving along and how just like 2 years behind they are. Not everybody, but a large chunk, and how they're having to catch up. And you have computers, but a lot of the shortcomings are being masked by the computer usage. So you really can't tell in reality, where they are, because do they really have the skills to analyze data that they are being given? Do they actually have the ability to find solutions, strategies, problem solving, all of those hard, kind of skills that they really need in order to navigate through life? And so I think there's going to have to be a longitudinal study done to see what's the impact of kids not being in school for like 2 years. And the impact that has on learning socialization also, especially when you're cooped up. So all you had was computer interaction. And the outcome.
I think to your point, you talk about those hard skills. I think one of the things that we lost greatly was the soft skills, the empathy, the vulnerability,
compassion,
all of those things that kind of just went away because everybody, like you say, you're in isolation, which meant you interacted on this. And then you found your own little weird rabbit hole and went down there. And then when you came back out, you're like, "Oh, wait, well, my rabbit hole is the right one. Yours is the wrong one. And you're not just wrong. I hate you." I'm like, "Wait, what?" Like, we never used to be that way. I feel like it did this very weird thing. So to your point, almost like about the things, the strategy and the thinking, what about in their interpersonal lives? How do they know how to trust people or create a real relationship with someone?
They don't.
They don't.
That's why anxiety is rising.
Right.
And I think that's why suicide is rising, anxiety is rising, depression is rising. I think because also you have people who want the life that they see online. So
Yes.
there's so many things that have affected the mental health when it comes to technology that sometimes it's like I feel like in January I'm even thinking about stepping away 30 days and just like
Yes.
let me just find my zen away from this platform for all the platforms for a little while and just put the phone down and just live. And I've done that. I've spent an entire Christmas where I wasn't online or didn't post or did anything. And it was the most, it was like a breath of fresh air to disconnect.
Oprah just wrote a book. That guy, the happiness professor at Harvard. I can't think of his name. It'll come to me, but I'm having a moment. Anyway, he's the happiness guy. He teaches a happiness course at Harvard, and they wrote a book together. And it's exactly that. She just said that one of the things she was doing was deliberately like telling herself, this is Oprah. I mean, come on, she's the queen of everything. And she's like, I'm telling myself, put the phone down, go for a walk, do these things that deliberately bring you joy. But it's like, I mean, I'm sorry, when someone with the skills, everything about who she is, that person, that she has to tell herself to put the phone down. What does a 14-year-old girl who is scrolling through TikTok or Instagram and feeling like she's missing everything and being judged, and why aren't I that skinny, and why aren't I at that party, and I'm not pretty enough? How does that girl, you know what I mean? She doesn't have all of the life experience, skills, and intellect and all the things to be able to say, put this down. It's not making me happy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sad.
It very much so is. So we're going to wrap up shortly, but I have a question for you of what, for people who are real content creators. You've been in this field for a long time. Where do you feel like the evolution of content creating is going, that you would give to someone who's saying, you know what, especially a young person that wants to be a content creator, or someone that wants to work in the field, whether it's healthcare or anywhere else, what kind of gem would you drop for them to get started?
I think that for me, it's like, I'm going to tell you a little story that is unrelated, but I'm going to bring it back. And if I forget, I'll be really sorry if I do, but here's my point. I have a very dear friend who is a personal trainer, and he played football in college, and then he was trying out for the NFL. He had a career-ending injury, and he ended up not being able to do it. So he went into personal training, and he became my personal trainer. Then he became like a big brother to my son and all these things. So we're very, very close. So now he's built this business that is actually a studio. So he has like classes of 12, I don't know how many times a day. Anyway, he's building it bigger, and he has this mission. And his mission has always been to help people live healthier lives. He happens to be a Black guy, and his family, he's had they've had terrible health outcomes in his family because they don't eat well. His favorite uncle died at 54. He had a massive heart attack and was told, you got to change your life. And he wouldn't do it. After a heart attack, he brought fried chicken over for like Thanksgiving, you know what I mean? And then he had another heart attack, then he had a stroke and he died. And so my friend Maderis is just like, this hurts me. It hurts me. So he was talking about going for funding, and we were talking about the approach. And I said, you know what, Maderis, and this is where it comes to the advice for anyone. I said, I'm quoting Simon Sinek, but you got to find your why. What is your why? Why are you, if you're doing it for money, that's your thing. Okay. I can't experience share around that because I have never done anything for money. So if you know why you're doing it, doesn't matter what kind of content you're creating, whether you're writing or you're blogging or vlogging or whatever you're doing, what is your why? Mm-hmm. And I think that if you put that first and not the money first, that you will not only be successful, but you'll be happy. Mm-hmm. One of the books that especially for younger people, I recommend, it's called How Will You Measure Your Life? Oh. And I read it in kind of as research for my book, and ended up being like, this is one of the best books I've ever read. And I actually highlighted it and annotated it for my son so that he didn't have to read the whole thing. But he probably will. He said it's really good. But anyway, this Harvard Business School professor who had gone to Harvard Business School wrote it for high achieving young people, because what happens is that they're at an elite school or they're getting their doctorate, whatever they're doing. And they always say things like my son in law school, they're like, they want to go into big law. That means the big law firms and stuff. Mm-hmm. And they're like, I'm just going to do it for a while because I've got debt. And that's what he said happens to these kids. And he said in his experience, when he graduated from Harvard, his 5-year reunion, everybody was happy. Things were going great. By the time it got to 20 years, people were, in Alcoholics Anonymous, or they were still actively alcoholic. They were unhappily married or divorced. They had, they hated their jobs, but they had the 2 big houses, fancy cars, and kids in private school, and they couldn't get out. And so what I tell anybody who's younger is whatever you're thinking about doing, let's say you're 25, what is your life going to look like when you're 40 if you're doing that? And make sure you chart that path, because if you don't, somebody else will chart it for you and it will not be for your benefit. So make sure that you are thinking about, which is something you never, I know I never thought about that when I was 25. Heck, you kidding me? My 20s were a joke. I mean, I keep telling anybody who's in their 20s now, I'm like, you are laying the track for the rest of your life, and like, do it well, because then you can, do other stuff, but do it yourself, or somebody else will do it for you, and it will not be for your benefit. It will be for theirs. So I would say, number 1, find your why. Read anything by Simon Sinek and think about that. Why are you doing what you're doing? And if it's for money, that's your gig. Then find people who are doing things for money and emulate that. But if you have a real why, like I really want to help people or serve people, or I have this thing I'm passionate about that I want to share, whatever that happens to be, then do that. And remember that that's why you're doing it.
Ooh, I love it. I love that. Where can everybody follow you at? And you said you was writing a book, because I'm very curious. When is this coming out?
I'm hoping in the spring. It's called Your Cultural Balance Sheet, and it's about creating and the subtitle right now, working title, is creating an environment where people can thrive. And the whole reason that I called it that is, as I said, in my business, of course I look at my balance sheet and I look at my, all my income statements and things like that. But I tend to look at the culture first. And so that was where I came. I'm like, oh, I look at like a cultural balance sheet. And so we're talking about it in terms of assets, liabilities, and equity. And the short is basically your assets are, of course, your people and your values, and your liabilities are things that can become assets if you pay attention to them and turn them around. And then what happens, your equity becomes the actual culture that you've created out of this. And that then your people become protective of the culture. They don't want a bad apple in the bunch, and they really want to make sure that they have each other's backs, and that they protect this environment because they want to stay there and they want it to keep going.
I love it. So when we are back in the spring, I'm going to be checking in with you to say, okay, did the book?
I love that. Yeah, hold me accountable, because we've been working on this, and my co-author is brilliant. She's so much a better writer. You know how some writers make the word sing? She makes sing. Oh my gosh. And she actually is just being published for the first time with a children's book. And she works actually at WriterGirl. She's one of our writers and brilliant editors, and everybody wants her to do everything. But so she's very busy with a full-time job too. And I'm always like, of course I would never anyway. I'm like, she's like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, you're kind of busy. Like, you're doing all the rebranding work, and you're like, you have a full-time job. I get it. Like, it's fine. But I really want her doing it, because she is just much more skilled at it than I am. So I'm definitely the idea person. She is 100% my co-author, and she's doing the beautiful work of writing it. So we're hoping, and then an old friend of mine is the editor, and he's really helpful too. So we're hoping that we can have it out in the spring.
Okay. I will tell you, there is something about people who can really story tell. They're very different people.
Yes.
I'm blessed to be one of those people, but because I write about so many. I'm also a freelance journalist, so I get to write about people and tell their stories. And I blog for lots of companies, and it's not mine, so I have to like step into their shoes. So I think that there is something people don't understand about real writing. You are really a purposeful, and you are in your purpose, and you are a writer. It does resonate very differently. So then always, when people are saying, I'm writing a book, I'm like, man, I understand, because like I said, I've been writing one book for 2 years because it's just that different. I'm like, I'm going to get my life right at some point. Slow down.
I mean, it's hard. It's, it's really hard. And, we're doing, we do it together, but it's still, I think she does the heavy lifting, because I've got a lot of ideas, and she's known me for a long time. She's worked with WriterGirl for like 8 or 9 years now. So she's very aware of the culture, and that's why I wanted her to help, because she lived it. So she knows what it feels like to be in this environment. And I appreciate that.
But I think it's very, I love your transparency to share that, because when you see some co-authors or people, go through and then you have people show up, and it's like, well, we did all this work together. And, there's always that one that's the writer, and one that's always the thought to say, I'm not sure how to write it, but, I have someone that can put my thoughts on paper.
Yeah.
And I love your transparency, because a lot of people are not that open about that.
Well, one of the things that I talk about in that building an environment is that as the leader, you have to demonstrate the soft skills, because nobody will feel like it's a safe space. And that starts with you. So you have to be vulnerable, and you have to be open, and you have to demonstrate those things. And I'm someone that, until Brene Brown came out with it, I really honestly thought vulnerability was weakness. I would have gone to the mattresses on that one. But once I learned that what she says is the only way to courage is through vulnerability. And so by demonstrating that to people and and saying, like, I don't know the answer to many, many things, and yes, Carol is doing most of the work on this, I think. And she would probably say I am, but that's not true. But being able to say that, not to mention, recognizing when somebody is better at something than you are. I think that's the key to being a good leader, is like, if I'm the smartest one in the room, I'm in the wrong room. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I also am of the, even when I mentor, I tell all of my mentees, I have just as much to learn from you as you from me.
Same.
If it's not a two-way, reciprocal relationship, then I know that it's not going to be beneficial or advantageous for them to come to me.
Correct.
Because I don't want to ever live in that space where I know everything. I know what I know, but that's why I always, tell people, network up, network in the middle, and then network with your peers.
Right. Yeah. I always say that, like, I remember that one of the things when I started building WriterGirl, I had been horribly humbled by some bad business decisions before that. And I think in my own experience, for me, that being humbled and really, really allowed me to have my ego out of the way. So then as I was building the business, I could find people, like, I hear other business owners say, like, well, I'm the best at selling. I'm the best. I'm like, well, then you have a job forever. Why don't you hire someone who's got better potential than you and teach them how to do what you do and let them do it better? All three of the people who sell for my company now do it better than I do. I mean, that wasn't always the case. Obviously, they learned from me, but oh my gosh, I couldn't do what they do now. And I'm proud of that. I think that's wonderful that they're better at it than I am. That's what it should be, right?
Yeah. But that's true leadership.
Yes.
That's the true definition of leadership. Lead people better than where you have been.
Right.
Like if you can't be better than me, then I failed as a leader.
Correct. I agree with you.
So where can everybody follow you at? We have your information. So I'm going to be checking in the spring after I come back from my honeymoon, saying, hey, Christy, where's this book at?
Yes, please do. Please do. I am actually not myself personally terribly active on social media, but we have company pages. So there's, I can give them to you. There's a WriterGirl LinkedIn that's very active. We have a lot of stuff, and they put all the stuff about this, like we'll promote all of this out there too. And then we have, I think we have Twitter, and I think that might be it that we really do actively with that. We also have a WriterGirl blog, and anybody who wants to contact me very easily can. You can just at WriterGirl. So it's Christy, Christy at WriterGirl. And anybody who has any questions about anything, I'm happy to talk to them, experience share in any way that I can help. I love doing that. So yeah, happy to do that.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for coming by. I know we kind of held you over your time, but we hope you enjoyed the conversation.
I loved meeting all of you. This was really, really, like I said, this was the most fun podcast I've had so far. And I've enjoyed all of them, but this was more of a conversation with more people. So.
Oh yeah. You know what? This is why the platform existed. I created it almost 7 years ago in 2017. I did the first pilot, and I just wanted to be a safe space for conversation there. And I wanted it to be like happy hour.
Yeah.
Happy hour is everywhere. It's like, I don't want to have to stick to a certain topic, and it's nice, but you really get to see and get to know who our guests are. You get to know who the co-hosts are and the hosts, so you get to see us unwind and literally like a happy hour, because I don't know any happy hour that just sticks to one topic.
Oh gosh, no, that would be boring, wouldn't it? Nobody would.
So when I was creating that's what was in my mind. I'm like, I want what I would normally have when I go out.
Yeah,
I just want to be able to have conversation. I don't want to be stressed out. And so I always tell people, you might want to go and look at other episodes, because we can start on one thing and then be all the way swing left, and then we can come back and swing right and swing through the middle. But I think that's what makes this platform so unique, that we can capture all, the multi dimensions of people that come on our show. And so I thank you for being transparent. I thank you for taking the time to come on and hang out with us. And I really do hope you come back in the spring and talk about your book, because it is.
I would love to. This was great. I really enjoyed talking with you guys. I so appreciate you having me on. It's very generous of you to let me jump into your group. I appreciate that. And I would love to come back, very much so. And hey, congratulations on your engagement and your soon to be nuptials. When are you getting married?
2/24/24.
Oh my gosh, look at that. That's so fun.
I know.
Congratulations.
Well, it's going to be fun when I get there. I mean, right now, getting to that point is like, I don't have no gray hair now. I might have some probably within the next month or so.
That is what hair dye is for.
Well,
Yeah.
you see,
I mean, hey, this,
yeah, you see, I'm going to keep, I was telling Diana, I said, if I find one gray, I will no longer dye anymore.
Really?
Yes, I was.
Yeah, I was thinking that, but my hairdresser said, "Oh no, you're not going gray. You'll look too old." And I'm like, "Okay, I trust her. She's been doing my hair for like, I don't know, 15 years." So I'm like, "All right, okay." But that's why we went. I was dark. I went blonde because I got tired of going in there all the freaking time. I was like, "This is ridiculous." And so now I can go like 8 weeks, which is wonderful because you can't really tell.
Oh yeah,
I'm all the way grown. Well, I'm waiting until right before my wedding, and then I'm gonna go back blonde.
Yeah, there you go. And it'll be fresh and perfect and done.
Be fresh and perfectly done, unless I find a gray hair.
Oh, that's funny.
And so for me, I think because I just turned 48. Yes, I'm proud. I just turned 48, and I'm like, I still have no gray.
Lucky for you. I waited as long as I could, and I had to do it probably around that age. So, I hope you get it.
I have a lot of gray.
Yeah.
Well, both my sisters started graying in their 20s. So I'm like, my mom just started graying in her 60s. So I'm named after her. So I'm like, maybe I got her genes.
Yeah, maybe you did. That would be nice.
But now, I mean, and somebody said, well, how would you know if you always dye your hair? I'm like, hello, I would see gray hair at this juncture, but not yet.
Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed for you because nobody wants to mess with it. I mean, like it's whatever it is,
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, this wedding planning is not for the birds. It's a whole full-time job and a job and a half and like 2 jobs, actually.
I'm assuming you're having a big wedding then.
I don't think, you know what? I don't know when people say you're having a big wedding. I'm like, not really. I think 100 people is not like big.
Not bad.
Yeah. I think to me, it's a small wedding.
I think that's a nice size.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Providing that they all show up.
Well, you're going to have a good time. Enjoy it. This is a wonderful, joyous time in your life. Enjoy it. Have fun. No gray hair. Nothing but joy.
No gray hair. Thank you so much again. And I'm going to be in touch with you in the spring and have a great happy holidays to you.
Same to you. Thank you all very much.
Yes, thank you.
And I will bow out. Thanks so much, guys.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Oh, she was great.
So conversational.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it. Diana, I was over here like basking with your hair, honey. You're muted.
Oh yeah, she's just flowing.
I know. I was like, okay, hair. Because you said you just said that the hairdresser.
Last week.
Oh, was it? Damn, has it been that long? Oh, honey, you still flowing though.
Well, I just ordered my hair for the wedding, honey.
Child, I cannot.
I'm just waiting on it to come in to see what it looks like.
Has anybody dresses got here yet?
I don't know. Mine said it was delivered, but it ain't at my house. So
You might want to check on that.
I don't know. I got an email that said your dress has been delivered. I said, well, because I went to the mailbox, it's not there. It's not at the front door. So I'm like, where the hell did they deliver it to?
Did it come UPS?
I have no idea. There's no dress here at this house.
Whew, okay.
It didn't go back to the old house, did it?
No, because my cousin would have called me. She always called me.
Oh, okay.
Because she's our tenant. So
Lord, child, I can't. All right. Well,
I can't. What the hell?
Well, we're gonna have to talk offline for a minute because, like, what the hell? You done had the worst experiences with these dresses, but any last minute seasonal things? Because we're gonna be off air for like what, almost 4 months.
Yes.
Well, no, December, January, February, March. Oh yeah, 4 months because we probably come back in April.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
I might pop on. So there's some planning around other things. You might see me pop on now and again because I still have several requests for interviews for some reason. So I may do independent, but I have to see kind of on how time and space and place. But you'll get the best of Herspiration Happy Hour for the next 4 months. And then when we come back in season 7, it's going to be so many differences of things that's going on. I'm ready. I'm absolutely ready. But Louisa, where can everybody follow you at? Stay connected with what you're doing.
You can follow me at the Blue Phoenix Hills everywhere. Also, since we're going to be on break, I'm going to say at Louisa Harrell on Facebook because I tend to post on there too.
Okay. Diana Richardson Philippus.
Yes, as per usual, you can find me at Diana Richardson Philippus on Instagram, and it will funnel you through to all of my other accounts.
And you got some stuff coming up.
I do. Follow me at Diana Richardson Philippus. Stay connected for the Women in Business Networking Conference, which is coming. And our Elevate Networking Mixer, January 13th at the Ritz-Carlton here in Atlanta. It's completely free. You guys, come on out. Connect and elevate.
All right. Dr. Lewis.
Yes, you can find me at the Girlfriend Therapist. Right there on the little ticker right there. The Girlfriend Therapist on all social media platforms at Sext, SEXD, Unveiled, and at the Noir Center, NOIR Center. And this Saturday, I will be speaking at a couples vision board conference that is going to be here in Orlando. I think there's like 75 couples registered plus singles. And so, I'm super excited about sharing there and helping them get more connected. It's about manifesting the ABCs of love. So it's intimacy, pleasure, and beyond. So, yes.
Okay, nice. And you can find me, hey, Winna, you can find me on all social media platforms that I am Dr. P. Gurley. Go to the link or my bio. It tells you everything about me. I will be speaking at Forbes Council in Houston on December 16th. Outside of that, I will be wedding planning. So I don't have a whole lot the first part of especially the first 2 months of the year. But come March, I will be full swinging. I will be at the Women's Empowerment Networking Conference.
It's Women in Business.
Women in Business Networking Conference. Look here. Okay.
Just call it WBNC.
Girl, even an acronym wouldn't even work for me right now. Gotta get my
WBNC.
It has been a day. Also the tickets are now available for the Evening with Authors here in Baltimore. If you go to the link in my bio or you go to BGBB Literacy Foundation on Instagram, go to the link in the bio. You can, if you're an author, you're a vendor, you're an exhibitor, and you would like to come out and participate, it's open now for registration. And you can also purchase tickets now, early and get them before they go. Cause I tell you what, the way that my life has been right now, it's a lot going on. So that's going to be May 4th, 2024 in Baltimore. And so that's when I'm going to come out really outside of the podcast. That's going to have some new stuff taking place. That's going to be the next thing up. And then stay tuned for the 2024 Kids Red Carpet, because that's coming up very soon too. All those dates and locations will be dropped in January, on January 1st. All right. So it has been such a great season. This is going to be a great hiatus. I cannot lie. But we will see you in the spring of 2024. And of course, ladies, how do we always end?
Cheers.
Cheers.
This is Herspiration Happy